Welcome back to Sahara TV. My name is Rodolfo Okonkwo. Africa is a continent of many stories. Stories of war fought and war lost. And most of the time we're dealing with wars unfinished. And one of the great stories of the last month is that of Nigeria's election, especially the presidential election in Nigeria, where the opposition party defeated the party in power. Now, a lot of people have been given credit for what happened and how the election was conducted, and the country and most people have mentioned SaharaReporters as one of the media outlets that helped to engineer what happened. Now we have joining us for this segment as part of our Skype calls, the publisher and editor-in-chief of SaharaReporters, Omoyele Sowore. Welcome back to Sahara TV.
Thank you for bringing me, Rudolph.
So you were in Nigeria for the elections, and you're back.
Yes.
So, break it down. What didn't we get? What happened? How will you summarize what happened in the last 1 month or so?
It's important to start from where we started, and that was that we actually first left for the elections in February, and after spending about 2 weeks, came back because the election had been postponed. And I remember coming on this show. Again on the ground, as usual, travel through our own airport and go back into Lagos and began to set up our own little situation room, reaching out to people and having conversations as to how best to cover the election and to ensure that elections are transparent. Very transparent. So we succeeded in doing that, and I don't know, we've pretty much released everything we know, except some of the underground currents that people don't know. Some of it we reported yesterday, and that was how much or how desperate President Jonathan was in a plot to rig the election. Other than that, it was just to repeat that some of the things we know already, and maybe we'll start discussing this in the course of this conversation here today.
So the election was supposedly be the determining one for the country. People were saying that the outcome might be the end of the country. It didn't happen. Did it meet the expectations of Nigerians? And for you, who went there to watch it, what are the differences between the reality and what actually happened?
I mean, there are two realities, and that one of it was the fact that people had expectations that, you know, this should be the end of President Jonathan's regime, and what needed to happen. And I think that happened. So in that regard, the elections outcome met that particular expectation. The second aspect of it was as to whether the election could be regarded as free, fair, and credible. I wouldn't go to that extent, considering what happened in certain parts of the country. I can say categorically that the place where very, very real elections happened would be in the southwestern part of the country and maybe parts of the north. But in the south, and southeast, written in the south, and southwest, I suspect that the northern parts also start to respond with figures. In that regard, I wouldn't stake my credibility to say that election was like nationwide, free and fair.
Yeah. Let me remind our viewers that you can join our conversation by Skype, if you join us via Skype, and also via the phone. We'll give out the phone number when the time comes, but we're going to take Skype calls. If you have any question for Omoyele Sowore for the reports on SaharaReporters and every other thing he saw in Nigeria, give us a call, 917-284-9811. So eventually, at the end, Buhari won. And I know from pictures we saw, you were in Abuja. How were you received when you went to Abuja to at the place where people were marking the win?
Let me start by saying how I ended up in Abuja, because we did send out actually a team to be on the ground in Abuja, and by the midnight of March 28, that was the day of the election, it had become very clear who the winner was. But of course, there were a lot of manipulations going on, and I think on Sunday we succeeded in providing some form of clarity in terms of who the winner was. We started to release results of the election, and there was a lot of panic. People were freaking out. INEC officials were going crazy. Hey, how did you get these results? And so we told them, two things I told them, which is very important. It's like they have to live with the reality that election results will no longer be the exclusive rights of INEC. It's actually now it's moved to the realm of media and citizens, and that's what we wanted to pioneer. And secondly, made it very clear to them that since the election results were already announced at the ward level, at the polling units, ward level, and local government and state level, there's no point. What you're doing in Abuja at the Collation Center is mere formality. So we had a second report that showed that Buhari was leading by 3 million. And at that point, I felt that I had a historical duty to be at the center at the Collation Center. So I got on a plane, I think Monday morning. And this was one of the most amazing things we observed. There was nobody practically left in Nigeria. Like the elites who would fly on Monday morning to Abuja. So we were in a practically empty plane because they had all left Nigeria scared to death that this election will be followed by some massive violence that would just wipe them off the surface of the earth. So we had a very, very peaceful kind of trip. And, the airports were practically empty compared to what they would be on Monday morning. This is the day that usually people will be returning to Abuja. So we flew to Abuja just for me to go and observe something that I thought was historic. Yes.
Now, let's go back a little bit to when you decided to call the election for Buhari. What was the process like? And you remember that we were here and people were calling in saying, how did you guys get these results that are coming up? Can you talk about that and talk about the decision to call the election for Buhari?
It was a combination of factors. As you know, we had set up citizen reporters across the country. We had links with observers, NGOs. We had links with situation rooms, which had both political parties operating. And so we were able to call the result actually by inputting figures that we thought were the worst case scenario. So we look at Delta, for example, Rivers, and the results that hadn't come out and said, what if they're able to get 1.5 million votes in Delta? We inputted it to show that Buhari would still be winning by 2 million. So we inputted some of the very notorious states, and of course we did some inputs from the north as well, and we were able to come to the conclusion based on the available data at that point and some permutations and calculations, and came to the conclusion that Buhari was going to win. But at that time also we had 95% of the results available to our own situation room and decided to call it based upon that. We heard later that some other people claimed they called the elections first, but I don't think that is true. These days we have timestamps. But it was for us also a historic moment for our kind of experimentation about citizen journalism and reporting, that we boldly decided to take that risk to call the election. And then that was what gave me the guts to fly to Abuja.
Now, when you got to Abuja, did anybody say, what is the impact of that call? The publication, because the publication of some of the results coming in that you had, what impact did they have in the way that people who were trying to manipulate the results of the election?
This is what I noticed. I saw completely, I saw something very interesting, and that was seeing Fani Kayode on TV after we had published our second story that Buhari was leading, and he was in this complete state of, I would say, flux. he was just very subdued and very humbled. And I think I mentioned it on one of your shows. I was calling him from Lagos. And that was the first inkling that I had that they knew this was over, the game was. But at that point, they were still making efforts to inflate the figures, including what we later heard and confirmed that President Jonathan calling some coalition officers to inflate figures for him. But on the other side, you had Obaniko saying on Twitter that he wants to be the first to congratulate Jonathan for winning. And also Lisa Metu on channel saying, well, you know, APC should behave themselves. This was on Sunday. Well, we clearly knew at that point that the game was up and over for President Jonathan and his team members. But they had not given up at that time on what they could do. But I think it became very clear to them that if there are 6 zones in Nigeria, 4 of them against the president, it was impossible to use numbers from 2 of them to win the elections. And I think Kama, maybe at that point, it then dawned on them that it was time to accept defeat. But that did not come easy, I got to tell you. As you imagine, after we arrived at Abuja, we're still in the car on our way to the ICC when we heard over the radio former Minister of Niger Delta trying to disrupt the process.
All right, we will go to Skype calls and talk to our Skype callers, but before we do that, I wanted you to address the other issue, which was this idea that the president should be given credit. In fact, some people went as far as saying that he should get a Nobel Prize for conceding, being that you were there in Abuja and you were seeing these results coming in and the new reports on Sahara about what actually happened behind the scene. Do you think that the president should actually get a Nobel Prize or be called a hero for?
No, that's total rubbish. He did everything, and this is why some of the reasons why I'm mad sometimes at us, and I won't mention any particular population or group, that we seem not to have memory. You know, our memories are so short, and our attention span is like completely crazy. Otherwise, if you look at the sequence of events leading to the election, if not for people like you and I and other people, this election, the transition program would have been scuttled. This is the same president who funded the Odua People's Congress in Lagos, days before the election, to stage a massive protest that could have led to major violence, sponsored the MASOB to call for the removal of Jega. And there were a lot of activities that took place, including, just clear sabotage of the process. People should also forget that the president sabotaged the card reader in the entire South-South. And so because it was the fact that his own card reader did not work at his village that led to this, asking a lot of the South-South and South-East not to use card readers, which enabled them to do this massive fraud they did. All these things were carefully planned. People should also not forget what they did with him and his wife, the kind of violence they perpetrated in Rivers State, which had been plotted and planned over months and months. So, well, except to say that, the Nobel Prize has become so useless, you can give it to just anybody. Under normal circumstances, we should be talking about President Jonathan going to jail for what he did to scuttle this election, including what Orubebe did, which was planned between him and the president and their inner council members. So there's just enough evidence. And we have not even talked about how much they spent, how much was looted just to bribe people with dollars in Nigeria to subvert the electoral process. So we haven't reached those ends yet, and we shouldn't be talking about Nobel Prize at this. We should be talking about very nice handcuffs.
All right, we'll come back. Let's get our Skype callers to join us and then see if they have questions for you. Joining us from London, Ikechukwu. Ikechukwu, welcome to Sahara TV.
Yeah, thank you, Rudolph.
Okay, from Thailand, we have KINGSLEY. KINGSLEY, welcome to Sahara TV.
Thank you, Rudolph.
And Switzerland, we have Hansen. Hansen, welcome to Sahara TV.
Thanks so much, Rudolph.
In Canada, we have YEMI. YEMI, welcome to Sahara TV.
Awesome, Bugos.
And from Canada again, we have Sylvester. Welcome to Sahara TV. All right. Okay, Sylvester is not with us. Okay, Ikechukwu.
Yeah.
So you had Sowore talking about his experience covering the elections in Nigeria and the reports by Sahara. Do you have any comment or any question? What do you have?
Is it for me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Mr. Sowore, welcome back.
Thank you.
Basically, we have been following the elections from here, and really like the good work you guys did in Nigeria. You know, the media has always been there for people, for the whole world. They made the whole world to know that they have to actually come into Nigeria and look at what they're doing there. So far, what do you think about the election? The ones in the South and Southeast?
I think quickly, what happened in Southside and Southeast would probably be unraveled in the law courts. There's going to be a lot of tribunal activities. I'm not in any way insinuating that I trust the judges who are going to take up these cases. This is going to be another season for corrupt judges again to become multi-millionaires, if not billionaires. So, but I think some of the lawyers will bring out evidence in court that could tell us what happened in the South Side and Southeast, but I don't think there was, we had much of what can be called elections in those places, maybe except in a few places. Yeah. It's just very pathetic that, regarding what happened in South Side and Southeast. So I can't say yet. Again, the law courts will afford us the opportunity. And with the new government coming in, I think some of those things will unravel. As you can tell, a lot of people are already decamping. We're going to hear a lot of confessions. And we are here to document it for you.
All right. KINGSLEY in Thailand, what do you have?
Yeah, thank you very much, Rudolph. First of all, I will thank Sahara TV because you guys did a wonderful job in this particular election. I can say you guys is an eye-opener to the Nigerians living in diaspora. Because what's really happening, we did a job that everybody starts following up and knowing what is going on in entire country. I watched the coverage. I saw your guys. I saw your Sowore. Saw what he's doing. Saw the interview. I was following him up with everything. Actually, what happened in the election? Jonathan, the game plan of Jonathan failed him. That's what I can say, because him conceding the defeat is not in a proper eye. Even at the dying minute, a day to the final result, there are still expectations that Jonathan will win. But with the help of the results, Sahara gave the results earlier. Even if some result was not accurate, but there's little, it's just, I can say 90% is okay. So my kudos go to Sahara TV.
All right. Thank you so much, KINGSLEY. You have anything else? Should we go?
No, I agree with the sentiment.
Okay. Hansen in Switzerland, what do you have for Sowore here?
Yeah, sure. You guys are doing a good job. Not only you, because only you alone you can't do it. But there's something I would like to correct. In times of rigging, okay, of course, the both sides rigged the election. There's no side that did not rig. Let us say the truth. The truth needs to be said. The both sides rigged the election, because even in the Kano state, there's a lot of pictures coming out with what they call them underage voting. And when you see the people that voted in Kano state and compare the people that voted in Lagos state, there's a lot of questions to be asked. So that is number one point. Secondly, Bulgaria has won the election. There's no two ways about it. There are many things that happen along the line, but the most important thing is that Nigerians need to come together and support the president. That is what I'm saying. Whoever, everybody, whether you are in opposition, people need to come together and they support the president-elect so that he will succeed, because Nigeria is very important for every one of us.
All right.
And another thing Please,
Hansen, no,
should I
two
continue?
things I know of Hansen. We'll come back to you. Thank you so much. What do you think about, because this is an issue that comes up about the not and underage voters. What is the issue there? How did that become a major issue in this election?
Well, I did mention before, it's that except for the Southwest, I cannot vouch for the credibility of the elections, both in the core North, in the South-South, and the Southeast. And that's exactly what I was speaking to. You know, I don't want to sound defensive about underage voters. There are, I guess, as many underage voters in the North as there are in the South-South and Southeast. The only difference is that we didn't get to see the pictures of the voters in the South-South and Southeast. And don't forget that there, in fact, were no elections, election results from the South-South and Southeast we couldn't get a single polling unit to report as of Sunday, which is strange. In fact, we had to be tweeting where's the South-South and Southeast election, because they were holding them, they were guarding them jealously so that he used it to respond to voter tallies from other parts of the country. So, but there's no doubt about the fact that, you know, the elections were manipulated in as many places as possible. And as you know, Nigeria, you rig best where you are popular. And there's no question about the fact that Buhari had the entire North almost uncontested to himself. But you can also imagine that the People's Democratic Party tried to rig everywhere they could also rig. Because I spoke to an election observer who was in Adamawa State, and he saw PDP rigging in the place. So everybody who has mentioned that rigging took place in different parts of the country were right. And when I say even the election in the Southwest is credible, I mean to a large extent. I'm not in any way giving a blanket endorsement that's nothing onto what happened in those places. But, you know, that's why card readers were very important for this election, because what we then have as a chance to review so many of these things is to look at how many people registered to the card readers and how many people were eventually recorded as having voted. By the way, we have, as of today, the entire election results, and we should be publishing shortly for the presidential election.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yemi in Canada. Yemi, what do you have for Sowore?
Well, Sowore, I want to say thank you very much for you and your organization. And Channels TV did a wonderful job too. And we have to give it up for JMB for contesting again after he said he didn't want to. And we have to give it up for the entire INEC staffs. These are made up of very young people that put their life in the line to conduct this election. However, according to what Hassan said about rigging, yeah, we all agree rigging took place across the country, but the overall results showed what the people of Nigeria wanted. They wanted change, and change they got. And prior to the election, we were on this forum. Some people were here saying that nobody wants change. But the change has come, and it has strengthened our democracy. And my request right now is, and my question to Sowore is, would we be seeing SaharaReporters reporting live from Nigeria? Because currently you're in New York. I hope SaharaReporter goes into Nigeria, and because the media is very important for strengthening our democracy, and I wish they can have an office in Nigeria too.
Okay.
Yes, with all due respect, I've said this many times that we're in Nigeria, and Nigeria is in us. Physical offices are just symbolic in nature. You can have a physical office and not do anything from it. As you can tell, there are at least 10 media houses based in Nigeria. I know at least 2 TV stations. One of them imploded during this election. That was AIT, African Independent Television. And also, you have the Nigerian Television Authority. But all of these guys did didn't do much to expose all of the shenanigans that were going on before the election and during the election. And, they didn't even try to provide breaking news about the election results. As a matter of fact, I think NTA was reporting that Jonathan was winning when he was losing. So we're there, but definitely we'll put some other structures in place as much as is permissible. As you know, some 6 years ago, we were in this same kind of mood with the Jonathan regime, because we fought for the guy, he came to power, everybody was excited. And we became one of their biggest enemies. They were really, really toxic after us. They went after us, they sponsored all kinds of propaganda. They had their junior minister for foreign affairs, Obanikoro, try to sue us with the hope of preventing us from reporting the election as much as we had planned to do. But at the end, all of that amounted to nothing. I want to make this very clear, and I make it categorically clear that we owe our success to conscientious Nigerians and even Africans, all peoples of the world everywhere. And in some cases, and I'm saying this today, some of them include government officials who are giving us some high, top-level information that we couldn't have gotten if they didn't have confidence in our integrity. But they know that if the information gets to us, we do justice to it, we make good use of it, and we will never compromise or do business with it in a way that would not be in the interest of our people. So we have been able to prove once again, since we've been around for 9 years, that we can make it happen. What has happened, without bragging too much, is some kind of a mild revolution. And this revolution, to a large extent, owes its existence and execution to all the community around SaharaReporters and other media platforms that are out there who are working tirelessly to ensure that there's no hiding place for corrupt crooks in our system. And to make a promise today that we will not spare even the new guys when they start, to function. We will not give them, there's not going to be any honeymoon. We expect them to hit the ground running. If they don't, they will definitely hear from us.
Now, before we change topic and talk about South Africa, I would like to ask you, so essentially, the way I see what happened, we dodged the bullet in the sense that this was not a tight election. So all the riggings and all the things that didn't go well could be excused. If we have a tight election and we do not improve our electoral process, do you think that we will be talking about the same thing we are talking about today?
No, absolutely. I think this is very important that you mentioned that regardless of what people say about how well this election was conducted, we had to overlook a lot of missteps by INEC. We had to, we should also not forget that INEC was not completely ready by February 14th for a decent election, and a whole lot of logistic failures on the part of INEC. INEC did not do a perfect election. And when we talk about elections, we want perfection for us to dodge the kind of bullets you're talking about. The only reason why we are comfortably sitting here today, which we couldn't do as of 2011, by the way, is because what became the outcome of this election matches and it's in consonance with the expectation of the majority of people across the country. So, but it's important that whomever is going to take over from Jega starts to prepare for the 2019 elections now. Or even with or without, leaving the office, Jega should start and hand over to the next person when he's removed. Because I heard he's not returning. I hope he doesn't. He has not done a perfect job. So, but the reason why we dodged the bullet, of course, is because partially President Jonathan was also able to exhaust the patience and the energy of the Nigerian people. So he did most of the job by getting people pissed off. By pissing people off, by irritating people, by just, he helped us get tired of him. So by the time he left, it was just a sigh. It's like,
All right. We will have talked about the transition, but we have a more serious topic going on now, which is the situation in South Africa. And I want you to open for us. You were in South Africa sometime last year. Did you get any sign? Did you see anything that could explain what actually is happening now?
Oh, yeah. Don't forget we did a documentary on how the South African regime was treating Nigerian immigrants, and same for other African immigrants officially. And this is on our YouTube page. And we went there and saw how the immigration department treats people, and it was horrible. So at the level, the South African government is officially responsible for the way, in fact, there's no difference between the way the South African government treats other Africans on the continent of Africa or in South Africa and the way the xenophobes are now behaving. The government seems to be fueling the xenophobes because you don't get any respect from South Africans if you're not a South African. And it happened to us. Even while we're filming, we were harassed completely by people who were just standing around. So it has always been the case that South Africa has not leveled up with other Africans in terms of respect. And their citizens are picking up from that. But, don't forget South African citizens are also, South African government. And so when I see this happening, I'm not surprised based on what we even found out ourselves from that mini documentary that we did. And don't forget that the same South Africa had a plane load of Nigerians returned back to Lagos because they didn't have yellow fever forms. So they've been doing all kinds of things towards other Africans that hasn't been very palatable as far as I'm concerned. And I think we have some Skype callers. All
right, let's go and talk to our Skype callers. There are new people that joined us. Kennedy in South Africa. Kennedy, welcome to Sahara TV.
Thank you very much.
And Usman in Kano. Usman, welcome to Sahara TV.
Welcome.
Okay, Kennedy, let's start with you. You are there, right there in South Africa. So what is going on now, and what have you seen in the last few days?
Well, the situation here is very tense. In the last few days, this problem started in Durban when the King Zwelithini made some provocative statements. And it forced the whole attacks on foreigners. And as I speak, we are having situations whereby 2,400 foreigners have been displaced in Durban area. They have been placed in refugee camps. But again, the conditions in the camps are very, very poor. We are having humanitarian crisis on the ground. People are being forced to stay under very harsh conditions. And we are having reported cases of health crisis. And we are having pockets of attacks, violent attacks on foreigners here in Johannesburg also. There have been reported cases in some townships here in Johannesburg. And driving through town today, I found out that a lot of foreign shops are closed. And the situation is very, very tense. Unfortunately, the government is not doing enough. People are not seeing proactive initiatives from the government. And foreigners are taking initiatives on their own to protect themselves. And some foreign countries are already evacuating foreigners, their nationals, away from South Africa. I spoke to some Nigerians today, and some of them are very, very much willing to go back home. But the moves from the federal government is quite slow.
So what about you? Do you feel safe where you are, and are you thinking about going back home?
Well, one thing about South Africa you must know is that, there's a very huge economic inequality. Huge percentage of the population are poor. And this population of people are staying in very, very poor areas. And for now, we are having violence in these areas, this location, townships. But for the middle class, I think a lot of the middle class suburbs are peaceful for now. Where you have a lot of the white community living, those areas are quite peaceful. The tension is in the townships where you have a huge population of very poor people.
All right, Kennedy, I want to ask you, you chip in if you have a question. I want to ask you, are you satisfied with the reaction of the government of South Africa so far to the crisis?
To be very honest with you, I am not satisfied. Well, the president has come out on air to condemn the violence, but I think that it should go beyond that. You know, we have seen videos on social media, we've seen pictures. In one of the videos, I actually found a situation whereby locals took their time, you know, to set people ablaze, you know, and we didn't see police presence in the video. So I think the South African government the body movement is not indicative of a very, very serious approach to confronting this problem. So I'm not satisfied.
All right, Kenneth, thank you. Stay with us, okay? Let's hear the views of other Africans or Nigerians around the world. Let me come to you, Tajuddin in Abuja. Tajuddin, what are people saying in Abuja there, in Nigeria, about the situation in South Africa?
My brother, people are happy in this country. Nobody's happy about it. Everywhere is so tensed up that MTN, DSTV, Stanbic, IBTC, they are scared of their properties. If this thing should continue like this, I bet you in the next few days, you're going to see some hoodlums who will take advantage of this and start burning MTN masts and probably start going after DSTV. This thing is not just happening right now. It's been happening for a while. South Africans never liked Africans, and in particular Nigerians. They never loved Nigerians. And our government is not doing anything about it. South Africans is always against us. What has our government do to let them know that we are not happy with what they are doing to us? Right now, Kennedy was just talking about no police presence in the areas where there is crisis. And South Africa has one of the most effective police in this continent. So if there are no police presence, which means the government of South Africa is involved. So what is our government doing about it?
I just want to jump in very quickly and just to discourage people from taking action against South Africans, you know, or their business interests, destroying them, because we're going to have a continent-wide kind of an eye for an eye attacks that will not augur well for everybody. Then people should understand that people who are doing this in South Africa, like our friends in South Africa said, they are not the people who own MTN. They are not the people who own DSTV. They don't own the businesses you see in Nigeria. In fact, you'll be surprised that the MTNs and the DSTVs or this what are owned by Nigerians who are using South Africans as fronts. So at the end of the day, it's Nigerian businesses and Nigerian jobs that will be lost. I think the continental body of African leaders should step in. It's kind of an oxymoron for me because I know these guys are a bunch of jokers. But whatever they can do at this time is very important. At least we need some kind of a central voice that says enough of this. I agree with symbolic action of boycotting. Sometimes maybe that can force the owners of the businesses to, to
put pressure on the government.
Put pressure on the government. And I know in some cases that there are some South African politicians who have investments in some of these businesses that are in Nigeria. But most importantly, when we talk about South Africa not liking Nigeria, the question is, do Nigerians like Nigeria and like Nigerians?
No, there are many ways of looking at this issue.
But that's a discussion for another symposium in the future. But, when I hear these things about South Africans don't like Nigeria, Nigeria ought to be the leader of Africa. We ought to set the example for everything. It is, in fact, this is a time people should understand that Nigeria's failure on the continent of Africa is glaring, because this is a time that Nigeria's moral authority or its military power or its political organization or authority could have been used to settle this in 5 minutes. Yeah. Because if Nigeria was doing okay, it just needed for the president of Nigeria to call the president of South Africa and say, look, I don't want to see this continue, otherwise I'm going to come after you guys.
Or even fly into South Africa.
Exactly. But we don't have the kind of leadership that cannot even intervene in Togo.
Do we have a foreign minister? Okay.
Panikoro is...
I know. There's a foreign minister, but you hardly hear about it. Yeah. Let's hear from Usman in Kano. Usman, what's going on in Kano about this? Are people worried the way Tajuddin talked about in Abuja, or is it different in Kano?
Actually, in Kano, the situation is a little more different because people are not that kind concerned about what is really happening. in South Africa.
In South Africa. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's honest, so maybe you should ask him about elections.
Yeah. So now, Tajuddin, let's a little bit, because we have you. I want to ask you about the elections in Kano. Did you participate? And this issue of underage voters, did you see them?
Yeah, am I Tajin or Usman?
No, Usman, sorry. Usman, it's not Tajuddin. Usman.
Okay, but please, Rudolph,
Yeah.
I would like to talk about the elections, please, after Usman.
Okay, yeah, Usman, that's what I'm saying. I'm asking you now. The election, did you participate, and did you see underage voters voting in Kano?
From my polling unit and other polling units, I think there is no any case of underage voting here in Kano State, and I don't think there is any report which I have heard of underage voting in Kano State. Actually, the situation is not true.
Okay, but Usman, did you see the pictures that have been shown on the on social media and all over the internet of people who appear to be very young online trying to vote? Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw those pictures.
Okay.
But I can't say those pictures came from Kano State.
Okay. All right. That's what I want to know. All right, let's go to other people and get their views on South Africa before we come back to you. KINGSLEY in Thailand. Is Thailand friendly to people, Nigerians? I know there are a lot of stories of Nigerians, maybe those that committed crimes and how they are being treated. How do you think, when you look at these things going on in South Africa, what is your take?
Thank you, Rudolph. It's just like what is going on in South Africa now. Generally, other countries like Asia, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, they are using this thing as a kind of medium, feeling that since Africans can treat their fellow Africans like this, already there is a hatred in Asia generally. Many Nigerians, mostly in Malaysia, you can see something that is an eyesore that you cannot like. People suffering, the way they treat people, the way they handle things. Everything about Asia is bad. Compared to what is going on in Africa land, they take it as advantage because some of discussion, some of interview or kind of agent talk we had yesterday, people are telling us if Africans can be able to treat their fellow African like this, why are we complaining?
All right. Thank you, KINGSLEY. Ikechukwu in London, let me come to you. London used to be the home for Nigerians. Has it been friendly to Nigerians, and what are they saying about the situation in South Africa?
London is a very peaceful place. It's a cosmopolitan city, and they don't really care. They don't discriminate. As long as you do the right thing, you abide by the law, you won't have any problems.
But I know that they have issues with immigrants from mainly Muslim countries. It's been a major issue in England. How are they handling that? And do you think that South African countries, or the country of South Africa, could learn from it?
The problem, the case here in the UK is that everything is under the law. You can't just change it overnight. It has to pass through a process. They have always been open to the world to come into the UK. Most of the British people here are not even purely British. Some of them are Arabs, Muslim, and other stuff, Christians, and all, but they are British. And so they've always been open to people coming in. They can't just change it overnight. So the new party here is trying to change that. The UKIP, they're trying to stop the get a strict law on immigration. Let's see if they can win. If they can get into power, then they can be able to do that. But the Labour Party and the Conservative Party have a different view on that. So
all right.
I see it the same.
All right, thank you, Kechku. The wider discussion when we go back is the issue of how to deal with immigrants, people coming to any country, not just South Africa.
It's what I wanted to say very quickly. That the response of countries and citizens to immigrants and immigration in general is dependent on a variety of variables, situational variables. When the economies of countries tank, people feel like, immigrants are a drain on the economy, you get backlash. It happens even in the U.S. Mexicans have been treated like that. In Arizona, where police give them a hard time, there are, supremacist groups that are attacking blacks, attacking immigrants everywhere in Europe and Germany. So you will always get it. Even in Nigeria, we did it before, where we sent Ghanaians back in. Right now, Ghanaians are maltreating Nigerian business people in Ghana. So, but again, this is why we have to have a wider discussion, and of which the UN should also get involved about solving some of these problems and making countries take extraordinary measures to protect immigrants. And this also means that we'll have countries that so-called, advanced countries and developed countries stop some of the anti-immigrant positioning, because some of these things also fuel some of these barbaric attacks. It doesn't matter whether it is based on religion, based on sexuality, or based on, skin color. Immigrants are at risk in a lot of places around it. Well, we're talking about South Africa having, 6 people killed in 5 days. But we have not even talked about the wider issues of boats that are capsizing towards Europe, in which 500 to 600 people die. And you have the naval officers of Italy just nearby refusing to rescue people. Nobody's talking about those things. Those things they're worse than xenophobia.
And also the fact that if people cannot go to South Africa, the next option is to go to Europe, and there will be more movement towards Europe, which is risky the way that people move. All right, let's hear from Hansen in Switzerland. Hansen, what do you think? What is your take on what's going on in South Africa?
Get rid of what is going on in South Africa is madness to the highest degree. It shows that we Africans, we have a lot of problems. We need to work on ourselves. I don't see the reason why fellow Africans, we hate each other to this extent. Okay, but you can't blame them, because such a thing is happening in Nigeria too. Whatever the name you like, you can name it, but it's happening in Nigeria. Some years ago, some area, there were people that from northern parts. So all these things are madness. It needs to stop. So it shows that, African leaders, they have failed. So take for example, if some of all these African countries put their country in order, I don't see the reason why their own citizens will be trooping in to South Africa to go and set up their businesses. They can do their business in their own country. So it's a situation that the whole African leaders need to talk and see how to put things in order in their various countries, so that, the continent will move forward.
Okay, thank you, Hansen. You want to say something?
No, I just like to say that, there's a wider problem that needs to be properly discussed. Like I mentioned, you could be going crazy on South Africa's, violence against blacks. But, you want to also think about, what Europeans do to both people, what Americans do to both people. Like I said, 400 people died close to Lampedusa, not too long ago. And the Italian naval people were around the place, and they did nothing to rescue them. That is racism on a different scale that kills more people. But that's not in any way an excuse for South Africans to treat other Africans the way they are. And again, I want to advise that Africans don't take laws into their hands by attacking other South Africans, because this is not something that is endorsed by all South Africans. Of course, as we speak, there are South Africans who are protesting against the barbarism of some of their compatriots in attacking immigrants. So we should understand this in a proper context and react appropriately.
All right. Yemi in Canada. Yemi, I want your own take on this. Also, I want you to probably put it in the context of Canada, because Canada is still one of the countries that basically is asking people to come to their country. How is Canada dealing with immigration? Is that an issue? And what is your take on what's going on in South Africa?
Yeah. In context with Canada, Canada is the second largest country in the world, and we have only a population of 33 million, and they are seeking skilled immigrants and non-skilled immigrants into the country, and they're continuously improving the process in order to make it easy for people to come in. And going to what everybody has said, I really want to reiterate and put emphasis on it's not an African thing, it's not an American thing, it's not an Indian thing, it's an human thing. Human rights, it's just a simple logic that you do not harm your fellow human being. We are all of the same species. So in anywhere in the world that it's done, it's not acceptable. So it's not African, it's not Nigerian, it's not whatever. What is wrong is wrong. And that's where law and order comes to play. In Canada here, the law is there. Irrespective of whoever you are, wherever you're from, wherever the law puts you, you face the law. And it's just simple rocket science. It's so unfortunate what happened in South Africa. I know Nigeria is going through a tough period economically, politically. That's why we can't speak out. If the country was really reputable on its own, the government should have stepped into this and taken over this. We have our own Boko Haram problem. Boko Haram is killing Boko Haram, so they are killing Nigerians. So we should look at it on a more, we should turn this negativity into something positive. Even in the States, there's the issue of police brutality, killing black kids. People are dying, they're just getting shot, just because they're of the color of their skin. What is wrong is wrong. Let's just call it what it is. A spade is a spade. It's bad. All right. And we should turn it into something positive.
All right, Yemi, thank you so much. We're really out of time. I wanted to get your final thoughts. I wanted to say...
so there's one more caller, I think, from caller. Zimbabwe.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, caller. I don't know your name. Tell us your name and...
Jeremos from Zimbabwe.
Jeremos from Zimbabwe.
My name is Jeremos.
Yeah, hi.
Jeremos Mugwani from... Hi, how are you?
Good. Welcome to Sahara TV.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much.
So what is your take on what's going on in South Africa? A lot of Zimbabweans are victims.
Yes, we are Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe, and we've been reading a lot about the South African xenophobia and the attack from our fellow countrymen. And we as Zimbabweans, we've been so much pain in such a way that it's the talk of the street here in Zimbabwe, back home. When we are expecting our government, our policymakers to take action, and as much as we, as the people, feel that everything that is happening is against human rights, it's a violation of human rights, we feel that we strongly need union of African nation states, because we are just separated by border lines, not by race, not by color or by skin. They are just border lines which are separating us as Africans, and we call the other fellow countrymen a foreigner. Yet we are all black and none of us is white. In fact, we've been battling ourselves over the past years on the issue of colonialism in Africa. It has been so much concern to us as Africans, being colonized by the Europeans, by the British and the French and other colonies. Now that the white man is no longer there, it makes no sense for us as black people to fight one another. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. Now, final thoughts.
Well, it's we're discussing elections and then
we went to South Africa.
Yeah. It's crazy. But like I said, it's just important that people stay focused and clear-headed at this time, so that we don't rush into making judgments and reacting irrationally, the same way that will put us in the same boat as the guys who we've been condemning. And this goes to, because I've been hearing from Zimbabwe and other African countries, they are planning to retaliate. In some cases, they've even started retaliating. This is despicable. We should understand that we're all Africans, black people, and to restore the dignity of the black man, we cannot continue killing ourselves. But what they're doing in South Africa remains condemnable, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the program on this, there's something wrong with South African policy towards Africans, and we've seen that with the way they treat immigrants officially in this video that the documentary we shot while we were in South Africa last year. This thing needs to change from the top. And most importantly, for those people who are angry in Nigeria, they need to fight to get Nigeria to be back on top and have the moral authority to kick ass on the continent of Africa.
All right, I'm sorry we have to end it here. Kennedy in South Africa. Kennedy, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Tajuddin in Abuja. Tajuddin, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks.
Usman in Kano. Usman, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Ikechukwu in London. Ikechukwu, thank you for joining us. KINGSLEY in Thailand. KINGSLEY, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Rudolph. Rudolph, can I say one more thing, please?
I knew that. Okay, one more thing. What is it?
Rudolph, first of all, please, I want to encourage you guys, I want to appeal. You guys have done a great job, particularly in this election, to move Nigeria forward. I think Sahara needs more to do. I'm appealing to you guys to have, mostly your director should do more on Nigeria issue to ensure that before 2019, let's see the level Nigeria can move.
Yeah.
This is my real...
So that you can go back home. We understand. We understand. Hansen in Switzerland. Hansen, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Rudolph. You guys are doing a great job.
YEMI in Canada. YEMI, thank you so much for joining us. I'm out of time. They are kicking me out from here.
Thank you, KINGSLEY.
Everyone that joined us, thank you so much. Sowore, thank you for being here.
Thank you for bringing me again.
All right, so we have come to the end of our show today. We want to thank all our technical teams, all the staff, and all our guests for being here today. We'll be back here on Saturday next week at the same time. You can also follow us on live
And they
stream.
shouldn't forget that there are still some elections that are yet to be decided.
Yes, yes.
Next week, Saturday, we'll be here.
Next week, there will be an election. We'll finish unfinished elections for governors and House of Rep and everything. So we'll be here and we'll be covering it. So stay tuned. On behalf of everybody here, I want to say thank you for watching and see you next week.